You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report. We are so glad you've decided to do so. Today is December 8th, 2024. It's a Sunday, so it's another day for the Central Indiana Sports Report. I'm your host, Greg Mengelt. With me today, Michelle Garmon of the Tipton Tribune, running a little behind for Saturday's scoreboard late into the night Sunday, but had to have some Susie time today. Michelle, welcome.
Well, thank you. And yes, you did need to have some time with your wife today. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, just a little behind on the scores, but that's all right. We're going to have a good podcast anyway. All right. I'm going to go through the scores, Michelle, and then you and I will go through each of the games individually.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Saturday's local scores: Class 2A number 7 Tipton is 2-0 after a 59-50 win over Frankton. Eastbrook beat Elwood 51-20 at Eastbrook for their first win of the year. Madison-Grant is 2-0 after a 46-31 win at Clinton Central. Norwell edged Oak Hill 54-52. Eastern won 41-37 over Alexandria. Eastern's first win of the year. Alexandria is now 0-3. Blackford improved to 2-1 with a 65-34 win over Blue River. 2A number 7 Lapel is 2-1 after a 53-26 win at Rushville. Kokomo is 3-0 after an 87-59 win at Dwenger. Hamilton Southeastern got its first win and gave Marion its first loss, 75-67 in Marion. Number 13, 4A number 13 Anderson is 3-0 after beating Newcastle 73-29. 3A number 4 Garin Catholic is 4-0 after beating Hamilton Heights 67-32. 3A number 14 Delta rebounds from Friday night's loss to Mount Vernon with a 45-40 win over Centerville. Western won its third straight game after opening with a loss to Kokomo, beating Frankfort 57-25. 2A number 15 Shenandoah is 4-0. They beat Cowan 84-36. And Eastern Hancock won its first game, giving Westdale its first loss, 60-55. And Anderson Prep is 4-0 for the first time ever after beating Central Christian 66-28. Some more scores of interest around us. 4A number 3 Greenfield Central beat 4A number 9 Ben Davis 57-52. Big game for Mr. Mullins, who is an incredible player.
Yes, he had 41 of their points.
41 of their 57. 3A number 5 New Pal beat Greenwood 62-56. They have a special player as well. 4A number 1 Fishers 77. 4A number 15 Mount Vernon 46. The night after Mount Vernon beat up Delta, Fishers has a lot of special players, it seems like.
Yes, they do.
4A number 6 Carmel beat Plainfield 52-30 on the road. Warren Central 56, Southport 50. That was at Southport. Clinton Prairie beat Seeger 54-41. Class A number 15 Rossville 78, North White 21. 4A number 8 Warsaw 77, Huntington North 53. And finally, in the Lafayette Classic Championship, Harrison 66, McCutcheon 58. What jumps out to you, Michelle?
Well, we talked the other night about how that Newcastle Anderson game and the Heights and Garin games would let us know just about those two because I was surprised that Hamilton Heights beat Newcastle like they did.
Right.
Well, I don't think Newcastle is very strong this year. I think Anderson is really good, but I don't think Newcastle is what you have come to expect from Newcastles of the past. And and I think Hamilton Heights is going to be maybe fun and competitive against teams around their own skill level. But again, where found out that Garen's pretty good.
Yes, Garen is really good. We'll talk more about that one coming up. All right, Michelle, let's start with the game you covered. Tipton 59, Eastern. Frankton 50.
Yeah, you know, you you talked to Coach Brent Brobston of Frankton Eagles after the game. I did, and I think he was kind of at a loss because the Eagles out rebounded Tipton. They only had one more turnover than Tipton, but yet Tipton just took control of that game at the end of the third quarter and throughout the fourth quarter. Frankton got off to a great start. They scored the first 10 points of the game and led 15-7 at the end of the first quarter. Tipton had opened the second quarter on a 5-0 run, but then Frankton got back-to-back three-pointers from Blake Nickham and Joey Wright. And, but then Tipton actually came back and got its first lead at the 2:28 mark of the second quarter on a layup by Peyton Aller for a 25-23 lead. But Frankton closed out the half on a 5-2 run to take a 28-27 lead in their intermission. Tipton's Grady Carpenter drove in and scored a basket with about 1 second on the clock in the third quarter, sending Tipton into the final period with a 39-35 lead. And Blue Devils opened the fourth quarter, scored the first 7 points, pulled away. And Frankton, Tipton didn't necessarily put them away, but they did, if you get what I mean.
Yes.
Tipton controlled the rest of that. Frankton didn't let it become a blowout because Frankton's, they're that good. These are two teams that could very well see each other again in the sectional, come March. I think it was a great test for both teams. For Tipton, as they head into this coming week, they open Hoosier Conference play Friday night at Western, and then they turn around less than 24 hours later and go to Muncie Fieldhouse to take on Delta on Saturday afternoon. And this gave Coach Cliff Hawkins and his assistants, some film and everything, and to reflect and kind of look on areas that maybe they need to and want to kind of get cleaned up heading into next weekend. And I'm going to guess for them, they would like to really have better starts and shooting. Tipton, they're still struggling, especially from the perimeter. They were 3 of 14 from 3-point range. Frankton was 5 of 16, but inside the 3-point from the 3-point range, Tipton was 18 of 28, so that's pretty good.
Yes, that is.
Whereas Frankton was 11 of 31.
It's a big difference.
Yeah, Frankton was 13 of 19 at the line, Tipton 14 of 20. Joey Wright and Tipton's Grady Carpenter shared game high scoring honors, each scoring 18 points. Wright kind of struggled with the free throw line a little bit. He was just 8 of 13 at the line. Joey also had 6 rebounds and 5 assists for the Eagles, who dropped now to 1-2 on the season. They had 2 other players scoring double figures. Brady Carmack added 10 points and 9 rebounds. Trey Bennett also had 10 points and 9 rebounds. Carmack also had 2 assists and a steal, but Brady was just 3 of 17 from the field. That hurt them because it just. But I think Tipton's size affected Frankton. Carpenter is 6'6", and yes, he plays point guard, but defensively he's in on that interior, and he had 5 block shots last night. And then you throw in Tipton can start 6'8" sophomore Grayson McFalls, who can alter shots. Now, Grayson saw some limited time last night. He a lot of that was they brought in another sophomore, 6'3", Quinn Smith, who is just a little bit more physically stronger and really physical. And he hit a big 3-pointer for Tipton there in the second quarter. Um, and he finished with 7 points, as did Peyton Aller. Sam Quigley joined Grady Carpenter in double figures with 15. Sam also had 4 steals, 2 assists, 2 rebounds. But for Grady Carpenter, it was a double-double. He had 12 rebounds to go with those 18 points, dished out 7 assists, and had the 5 block shots. Now, Grady's continuing to struggle from the field, especially from behind the arc. He missed all 5 3-point attempts last night after going 1 for 9 from behind the arc in the opener. He was just 6 of 20 from the field. They're not bad misses, though. You know what?
Yeah.
I just think once he'll find a groove. The same thing with Frankton, that when you and Grady Carpenter, and Brent will tell you, he says this in the interview that we'll play later, a little bit later here. But he says that Grady is probably maybe the best player, one of the best players they'll face this year. And they don't face too many guys like him, the 6'6" point guard. And what makes Grady so effective is because defensively he usually is guarding not a guard. He's down there around the rim in the paint, protecting the paint, able to block shots and rebound. And what is so great about Grady is he gets a rebound and he immediately turns up the floor. His teammates know, and especially guys like Aller and Quigley. Last year it was Jackson Money, knew if they just sprinted the floor and they are open, they knew to look, and he's going to find them, and he did. He had 2 beautiful full court passes to Peyton Aller, and Brent and I talked about that after the game. There's not a whole lot of kids, high school kids, that can do that.
No, they sure are nice to have, aren't they?
They are, and and it makes it tough because it's like Brent said, they'll watch the film and they and find maybe ways to, if they face Tipton again, to adjust to it. And I think the one thing you have to do when you play Tipton probably is you're going to have to make sure one kid gets back, because Grady's passing ability makes them so lethal in transition.
All right, Michelle, let's hear from Coach Hawkins about the win. By the way, Tipton, 4th straight season that they are 2-0.
Yeah, and Cliff was pretty happy. He thought that game was a learning experience for the Blue Devils as well.
I guess after the first, little more than first 2/3 of the first quarter, when kind of struggled offensively, and they opened it with, but after that, you guys did, I thought, for the most part, did a really, really nice job.
Well, one of the things we talk a lot about is there can be no breaking point, and even at 10-0, there could be no breaking point, because they came out with their experienced team and wanted to hit us hard. And some of our young guys just did not realize the speed of the game and the cuts that were being made. So once we were able to make a basket and get into some of our changing defenses, I thought we played extremely well. So we have to address our start, but I'm really proud of how the younger players and the seniors really came through, leading the way tonight to make this thing happen.
Yeah. What did you say after the second timeout? Because after that second timeout, I mean, you guys just came out and I think scored like bang bang, and then I know they hit back-to-back threes, but you answered it then.
Well,
again.
I told them if we weren't going to rebound, then I was going to go right down the line, even if I had to put mine on in. Okay, either you're going to rebound or you're not. Either you're going to fight for the ball or you're not. You are a varsity basketball player. This isn't middle school. You have to really fight for the basketball every play. You have to go after it every play. And I thought our kids started doing that, and I really felt like we took control of the boards as a whole from the second quarter on. Now, they got a couple of putbacks there either in the third or fourth quarter, but as a whole, I thought our kids really battled on the boards and yet still tried to maintain some coverages on the shooters. We tried to get out to the shooters, and we still haven't learned, is this guy a shooter or is he a driver? Which is he? But boy, some of the recognition that started developing as we played, I was really proud of our players.
Of course, Grady makes such a difference, and I mean, he does, but I think I think perhaps maybe the underrated facet of his game, and I don't say underrated by people that really watch basketball, but just fans and enjoy, is his ability to just see the court quickly and make that perfect full court pass. And I mean, his teammates know to get out and run, because if they get out and run off a rebound and they're open, he's going to find them.
They've got a chance to get the ball, and we talk about that every day in practice. And another thing we talk about is getting your hands ready. And at halftime, we talked a little bit, okay, now we're 2 for 11 from 3. So what are we going to do? Are we going to go 6 for 26 like we did at Tri-Central? Or are we going to decide that we're attacking the basket either by the drive, the finish, or the rebound put back? And I thought our kids just did that so well, because when you think back, there was quite a few layups that were made. And layups are really good to you. And layups generally lead to some fouls. And that's what this team has to do. We've talked all year so far about we hang our hat on rebounding, and we hang our hat on getting loose basketballs and playing defense. And I didn't feel like we were hanging our hat on those things early on. We were taken back by the speed of the game, but the kids quickly adjusted, and then they had some success on the offensive end, and we made a lot of strides, And what I like the most is, when you build a team that has inexperience, it's hard to know where everybody's going to fit. Everybody can say, "Oh, you know your team." No, you don't. You don't know. I mean, do I know my team when they're down 10-0? I haven't been anywhere with them 10-0 yet. Okay, so now I know a little more about them, but I thought we got some good quality time for Quinn and Isaac. I thought we got some real quality time with them. And, I've told Jace that, as we build a team, maybe there would be some things we might do differently down the stretch with Landon's foul trouble, and that he would need to be ready for there. So, as you put a team together, everybody's got to play a role, but you've got to be in the positions to play those roles. And I think each game will allow us that, because this team won't be put together until really after Christmas, I think, really with their roles and things. But that doesn't mean they can't go out and play winning basketball. It just, we just got to find it every game, because there's a lot to find. But, man, I love the perseverance, the determination, and they're trying to do things as well as they can.
It's probably nice to play a team like Frankton that is experienced and physically, strong. I mean, Wright and Carmack are strong players. And heading into conference game with Western and then playing Delta next weekend.
Yeah, that's a big weekend for us. And, of course, obviously we got to rest now. But I thought Frankton played us very physical. And I thought as a whole we responded pretty well. I think in the beginning we had 5 turnovers. In the second half, I thought we only turned it over once. And so if you turn it over once against that kind of pressure, that's a good sign. And I thought there were many times we were strong with the ball, diving to the floor, even with them. I mean, sometimes it just looked like the same game plan. Frankton diving on the floor, us diving on the floor. But that's what is required to play a team like Frankton. They're a really good basketball team. Give them a lot of credit.
All right, Michelle. This is Frankton's worst start through 3 games since 2021, but it's against LaPel and Tipton, so you can kind of understand that. Also, just their second 1-2 start in the last 8 years. They have their first conference game on Friday against Eastbrook, which is 1-2 overall and 1-0 in the CIC after beating Elwood on Saturday, and we will talk about that game coming up in just a moment. What did Coach Brobston have to say, Michelle?
Well, one, I think Friday night's going to be very important for them just because of a conference game, and only because they kind of have, they also have Wapahani coming up ahead. It's the following weekend. It's for Frankton. I mean, Brent's looking at this as it's a tough way to open the season. They're good teams, competitive teams. That they're playing. They're playing good teams, and they're being competitive with good teams, and in games, and just little adjustments. And he'll talk about that. But every coach will tell you they don't want to be playing their best ball at the beginning of the season. So, and I just look for Frankton as they continue on. They'll just get better as the season goes on.
Here is Coach Brobston.
For your first road game, it wasn't a great start, but necessarily, but you got off to a great start tonight, and then just kind of stalled a little bit.
Yeah, we great start. Was proud of the kids for that. Figured Tipton would make a run back at us. They did. And then we got very stagnant against the 2-3 zone and didn't move the ball well, and went from having 8 first half assists to 2 in the second half. I don't know if it's right. We've got us on our stat chart out rebounding them like 41 to 21. Our hustle chart was at 47, and we try to get to 35 on the road game. So if those two stats are right, we generally always win if that is the way it is. But it's going to come down to, when we look at the film, that the third quarter was stagnant offensively against the 2-3. In the third and fourth quarter, the ball movement wasn't good. There wasn't any fundamental pass faking to pick the zone apart inside out, and I think that just come back to haunt us.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the rebounding, and I think you did, watching the first half, I think you won that. But I think there was a stretch there in the third quarter to early fourth quarter where I think Tipton kind of won the boards a little bit, and they kind of took advantage of that.
They did, and they had a couple little shot fakes underneath that were good, that they got our kids off their feet and scored and finished and converted. So Tipton, I think, converted around the basket better than we did throughout the night. Trying to figure out what the best matchup is for Carpenter, you're trying to figure that out too. I mean, he's one of the top players we see all season, if not the best. And he's a tough matchup because he also passes well. So you've got to look at the film, because this is the first time playing him, and we could see him again in the sectional. So it's going to be interesting to see what we see on that film. Obviously, we defended him that way tonight. I don't think once we look back we would defend him that way again. I don't know, maybe. But I don't think it's going to come down to our defense necessarily as much as it is that third, fourth quarter offensive execution. And then the huge, the turn. I think we left a guy open for 3 in the corner, which was somewhere we gave a 3 up. And then we also weren't able to, after giving that 3 up, then I felt like we made a crucial error somewhere also with another turnover, but I'll have to look at the film there. But Tipton's good. I mean, this is a top 10 2A team in my opinion. And we've played 2 of those in the first 3 games. You just can't make some of the mistakes. We've got us for 8 turnovers, so I don't know if that's right, but that's, again, pretty good. I mean, overall. So in the end, I think it's just going to come down to looking that Carpenter made some plays to beat us, and then we didn't execute well against the zone.
I was going to say, I think maybe the one thing that teams just don't really realize, and you can tell them, is you talk about Carpenter's passing, and he can score quick. If you don't get back in transition, his teammates know he can make
they'll make that pass.
He make a perfect full court pass, and they'll turn it into. And I think that happened to you on 3 occasions tonight. He's
a 6'6" point guard that can see the floor extremely well, do things extremely well, and I think that he can expose you. So he's a great player. It's just we've got to look at it and see what we did wrong. And I don't think we defended him the best that we could have. So I'm sure there's going to be things we're going to look at on the film and say, okay, how are we going to defend this if we play him again? Because we can't defend him the same way. But I go back to that. I got to think our kids' effort was pretty good overall, like how hard they fought to win. Just didn't make the plays necessary in order to get it done.
Eastbrook won its first game of the season, Michelle, 51-20 over Elwood. It was the CIC opener for both teams. Eastbrook out-rebounded Elwood 39-14, and Elwood shot 21% from the field. Whew.
And I think Elwood kids have to understand, and I think Coach Ryan Van Skyhawk is really trying to get them to understand that you just don't become better shooters by showing up the first day of practice and only getting shots up during practice. You have to get extra shots up. Shooter good. You become a good shooter, not what you do in practice, but what you do outside of practice. Not what you do inside the season, but the shots you get up in the off season. And we're not talking about just going around, going out and picking up a ball and just jacking up trick shots and things like that. It's called doing shooting drills at game speed.
That's right, and
And
that's why I was not a good shooter, Michelle.
yeah, and I mean, I think Larry Engel was the first one to ever tell me that, because the Blue Devils, when when he was coaching, in the 80s there and early 90s, he'd tell you they shot well as a team, because he said, you don't become good shooters by starting in October, first day of practice. I think it was in October back then,
Can't do it.
and then just taking shots during during practice. They would come in, he would have open shoot arounds of a morning before school. Kids would go in and get free throws up and shots, even during the season. But, he always made them put a ball away for a month after the season ended. And then he encouraged them to, get busy and start, doing individual drills and doing some shooting drills. And
Same goes for ball handling, by the way.
Yes.
Right.
And Elwood, that's just it. Elwood, they're going to have to, I mean, if you can't shoot the ball well, then you have got to really control the other areas. You've got to you can't give up rebounds, and you can't, you got to
Turn
play
the ball over. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to play hard, tough defense every night,
That's right.
every minute.
All right. Sophomore Jaden Younts had 17 points for Eastbrook. Senior Reed Opperly, 9 points and 9 rebounds. The Panthers host 0-3 Southern Wells on Tuesday, and then go to Frankton on Friday. Elwood is now 1-3 on the year and 0-1 in the CIC. Junior Braden Etchison led the team with 7 points and 8 rebounds. Junior Ethan Cassis, 6 points and 3 assists. Elwood goes to Madison-Grant on Friday to face 2-0 Madison-Grant in their CIC opener. Then they go to 1-1 Bluffton on Saturday. We will have Ryan Van Skyok on Monday's Boys Basketball Week in review.
Yeah, I feel for, Ryan, because he did lose some players from last year, and the one nice thing is he'll keep with it, and those boys, he and his staff will keep going in there every day at practice, and they'll keep teaching and keep working on the little things, and Elwood will get better as the season goes on.
And if
As
they
long as
do,
continue to buy in.
there are some more wins to be had on that schedule.
Yes, there are. I think Elwood is a team, probably, to be honest, is probably going to play better at home, and they've only had one home game to open the season. So I'm sure they're looking forward to being able to play back at John Ward Gymnasium.
Yeah, speaking of Madison-Grant, the Argyles are now 2-0. They beat Clinton Central 46-31. Luke Gilman had 11 points. Ike Almeida 10. Xander Gillespie and Xavier Yegi 8 points apiece. Very balanced for the Argyles. And I talked to Josh Hendrixson, and he was thrilled with the defense.
Yeah, that's a key, and that's a key for Madison-Grant, is to play good, solid defense, and I'm sure they are just very excited to start the season 2-0, especially after the tough season they had a year ago, and that's good, and they have a very good shot at being 3-0 after playing Elwood next Friday.
And then on Saturday they play 0-4 Lewis Cass.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, they could easily, they could get to 4-0, and they should probably have a winning record heading up to Christmas. Heading into
I would imagine so, yeah.
Christmas. So that's always a good thing.
All right, Michelle, I talked to Madison-Grant head coach Josh Hendrixson after the win.
Well, I think we really did a good job setting the tone early, defensively. Early in the season, that's kind of been our calling card, is physicality and pressuring the basketball, and I think we did a good job of that early and really set the tone for the game. So defensively, I was pretty happy with our performance.
What did you do well, and who played well for you, Coach?
I think we did a good job of ball screen defense, which is something I knew would be very important against the Clinton Central offense, is making sure that we're jamming the ball screens and we're getting underneath them and preventing them from rolling. Xander Gillespie did a great job defensively, took 3 charges.
Wow.
I think Luke Gilman also, had a good game. He led us in scoring with 13, and he was definitely instrumental defensively against their leading scorer.
Clinton Central is 0-3 for the 3rd straight season. Eastern defeated Alexandria 41-37. It was the first win of the season for Eastern and their 4th win over Alexandria in the last 5 years. They host Tri-Central on Friday and then host Class A number 17 Southwood, which is 3-0 on Saturday. Alexandria is 0-3. They had a 21 lead at halftime. All 3 of their losses have come on the road. Sophomore Connor Kettery had 20 points, but I talked to Alexandria head coach Marty Carroll, and he said nobody played well on offense. Everybody played pretty well on defense.
Yeah, it's the Marty Carroll's team, the boys probably need to it would be nice, I think, if they could get their defense to lead the offense like Mickey Hosier's Lady Tigers often do that. When you're struggling sometimes offensively, with plays and different things, if you can get that defense to come up with some steals and some easy baskets, that can really that can really help. I said before, I think Eastern is a tough place to go play. It just seems like the games are ugly there.
Yeah.
And again, no offense. It's not to put Eastern down or anything. They're just
No, of course
some
not.
places and some gyms you go.
That's right.
That's just the way it is. Whether it's the way it's the floor, it's the setup at the gym, it's dark, it's just
It's a great gym.
Yeah, but it just kind of seems to be that way.
Yeah.
And
There are those places for sure.
yeah, and so for Eastern, that was a really nice win. For Alexandria, I'm sure, because I think they have one more road game before they get to play home, because I believe they open the season with 4 road games, which can be tough.
They're at Blackford on Friday in their CIC opener.
Yeah,
and then their first home game is Saturday against Tri-Central.
Yeah, that's right. And that could be an interesting game.
It very well could be, yes.
Yeah,
both of those games will be interesting games, I think.
Yes.
All right, here is Alexandria head coach Marty Carroll. He's not very happy with the way they played. He actually said he expected them to be better at this point, but he definitely saw some positives, Michelle.
We had a real hard time shooting the ball. We finished the game at 22% shooting.
Wow.
So
you're not going to win a lot of games like that.
No. Thought our defense was really good. We gave up 41 points, and because of our shooting, we scored 37. So,
right, giving up 57 points per game, you should have at least one win through 3 games, right?
You would think, but there again, we played 3 different opponents. We faced 3 different defenses and haven't handled any of the 3 the way that I would like to, but it's about.
What did you see that you liked or that you did well? Was it just the defense?
I thought defensively we were much better. Better with the game plan. We had fixed a few things defensively and in the last couple weeks, and it showed in the game, which was, promising, I guess. But then I guess something goes well, something doesn't go well, type deal. So.
And I know you're not going to make excuses, but this is Three teams you've played that are combined 8-2. Three games all on the road. It's not, like the sky is falling, right?
No, and it's I mean, the reality is I've got a really young team, and the first 4 games of the year on the road I knew was going to be a struggle anyway, but I did think that we'd be further along than we are. Now that doesn't take anything away from the teams that beat us, but I just hope we would have played a little better.
All right. Speaking of playing better, who played well for you, Coach?
I can't tell you that anybody offensively played well. Connor Kettery ended up with 20, but it took a lot of shots to get there.
Defensively?
So I think defensively, I think everybody did. I think it was a team effort, and now we just got to put both sides of the ball together, I guess.
Blackford is 2-1 after beating Blue River 65-34. It was the 6th win over Blue River in the last 8 years for the Bruins. Senior guard Gage Baker had 19 points. Freshman guard Marion Leggett 15 points. Junior forward Mason Kitterman had 12 points. And senior guard Jacob Lease 8. Blackford hosts 0-3 Alexandria in the CIC opener on Friday, which I just said. 0-4 Blue River is it's their first 0-4 season since 2017, and I will have Blackford's Aaron Daniels on Monday's week in review. Norwell defeated Oak Hill 54-52. Oak Hill is now 2-2 on the season after that tough loss. Junior guard Jace Tonigal, 24 points, 4 assists, and 3 rebounds. And junior guard RJ Sugar had 13 points and 3 rebounds. But the Golden Eagles had too many turnovers and did not shoot well enough in the loss. They are now 1-2 overall and play Mississippi on their CIC opener Friday. It's going to be a busy night in the CIC Friday.
It is. It is. That'll be a key CIC game Friday night.
Yes, it will. There's going to be more than one key CIC game.
Right, but I mean, I think that's a big one.
Yeah, that might be the biggest of the night.
Yeah. Yes, I believe that. I could be wrong, but I think Frankton will bounce back. I think they'll pull out the win over Eastbrook on Friday. I think they'll start their CIC with a win. And then I think Madison-Grant will beat Elwood. But yeah, there's some key wins. This Oak Hill, Mississippi is probably a big one because I know before the season we talked about Oak Hill and Frankton and Mississippi being the 3 teams because, Mississippi and Frankton shared it last year, but Oak Hill has that talented backcourt and
it still looks like it's that way. I think Blackford could also be a factor, but still looks like that's the case, those 3 teams.
Yes, it does. And you're right. And Blackford could be a factor. The winner of Oak Hill and Mississippi gives you a leg up, I think, in the conference. Kind of helps put you in the driver's seat because, the winner knows they have a tough game in the win column, and you're not going to lose focus. But it's nice you lose that game, and then you know that you can't really afford to lose any more or no more than one more. So
that's right. Norwell, that was their. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that Oak Hill also on Saturday hosts 1-0 Maconaquah. Norwell, 5th straight win over Oak Hill. They are now 2-1. Adam McBride had 16 points. Freshman Josh McBride, 13 points, 13 rebounds. Coach Renbarger will also join us on Monday's Week in Review, which By the way, very easily could be Tuesday morning. I keep saying Mondays we can review, but it'll probably be out Tuesday morning because, once again, a little behind.
Yeah.
Until I can get ahead at one point, I'm going to be behind the entire time. But
Well,
I, I plan on
that's
getting
okay.
ahead soon.
And hey, I will say this, because the name is escaping me right at the moment. But if you want to see two really good guards and guards that can really fill up the basket, you'll see it in the Oak Hill Mechanical game next Saturday.
Class 2A number 6 Lapel. It's they're 2-1 this year after back-to-back 0-4 seasons the last 2 years, which surprised me. Quinn Wilkins led the way for Lapel with 16 points. Bodie Judge had 15. Luke Jones scored 12. And on Monday, we will definitely hear from Lapel head coach Kevin Cherry, who talked about Quinn Wilkins and how good he's been to start this season.
Yeah, I think that was a big bounce back win for Lapel Saturday against Rushville.
Really was. And they did it very convincingly. And next game for Lapel, Class 2A number 1, Wapahani on Friday. That's going to be a fun one.
That's going to be a fun one, and I'm sure the gym will probably be rocking a little bit.
A little bit. And then on Saturday, they play 0-2 Burris, so kind of one spectrum to the other. And that's at the Central 5-game event that they're going to have at Muncie Central, which I will be mentioning more than once that's the next game for local teams.
Yeah, that's going to be a great day at Muncie Central Saturday. And then, of course, they have a big shootout, kind of the same thing with the really big schools down there at Southport Saturday. So
That's
Saturday
right.
it will be a great day of high school basketball.
Well, I can't wait to spend some time at Muncie Central. I haven't been in that gym in more than 30 years. And Rushville's 0-3. It's their 5th straight 0-3 start. Junior Clayton Chase had 11 points to lead Rushville. Hamilton Southeastern beat Marion 75-67. And here is Grant Shouse of the Action Sports Network to tell you all about it. All right, we talked to Grant Shouse earlier about the Madison-Grant Blackford girls game. Grant also did double duty on Saturday. Busy guy. You have to love high school basketball to do one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and Grant certainly does. He had Hamilton Southeastern's victory over Marion. Tell us a little bit about it, Grant.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game started off a really good first quarter. Both teams back and forth hitting shots at the end of the first quarter. It was 22-19 at the end of the first quarter. HSE was up, and then in the second quarter they outscored Marion 22-8. And Marion just couldn't hit shots. They let easy looks go in for HSE. HSE had a balanced attack. They were led by Luke Weimer with 18 points last night in the game, but Hamilton Southeastern was up as big as 22 last night. Marion, give them credit. They played well in the third quarter, even a lot in the fourth quarter, and chipped the lead down. They got within 4, but just could never get over the hump. I mean, really give their staff credit, Coach Blackman and company, for making the adjustment they made, which was putting on the press. Tim Jones I had 4 or 5 steals that led to transition baskets for them. That was huge for Marion to try and get back in that game, and they looked really good. The biggest thing that kept them from winning that game was I think really kept them out of the game, that sparked momentum for HSE, was Amar Rogers for Marion missed a wide open layup that would have cut the lead to 2.
Wow.
And he missed the layup, and HSE, I think, scored. They went on a mini 5-0 run after that, and that was one of those. It was early in the fourth quarter, so it wasn't like it was a game-deciding play, but it was one of those plays you look back at and say, man, if he could have hit that, this is a whole different game. HSE is a very well-coached team. They play the right way. I thought Marion played the right way last night, shared the ball. J.J. Smith led them with 19 points, and that was big for him to step up, a guy that only averages about 6 or 7 points a game. Hit some big threes in the second half. Tim Jones was big for them as well. And then Tim Jones had 18 points, and then Amar Rogers had 11 points. But they hit some big threes, but HSE just made plays when they needed to. And the guy that stood out to me wasn't even their leading. They're probably their two best players in Luke Weimer and Braden Totten. It was a guy by the name of Maverick Young. Hit some big threes. Lefty. I mean, if the kid was open and had space in the corner or out on the wing, he was hitting it every time. So Marion, I think got jumbled up a little bit defensively and couldn't find him. And he hit some big shots when he needed to hit shots. But Marion will regroup. They'll bounce back. They got a big game Friday at Richmond. I'll be doing that game. Then they're going to play Wabash next Saturday, so they'll get back-to-back games and two games that are winnable to get them back on track. And I think if that game last night goes another probably 3 or 4 minutes, I think Marion probably had a good shot at winning. And give them credit, they were down 22 at one point, got it back within single digits, and just never really gave up. But just couldn't capitalize on some plays down the stretch.
And big win for Hamilton Southeastern after coming in 0-2.
Yep.
You know they're going to get some wins, but that had to feel good for them to get that win against a good team on the road.
Yeah, I think that was probably when the season's over for HSE, they're going to look back on that Marion game and be like, that really was one of our more quality wins. Like you said, going on the road, always a tough place to play at Marion, no matter how good a team they are, or really if they're struggling, that's a tough place to play. And I've been to enough games there growing up to see really good teams go into Marion and get beat, and that's just a really big win for HSE, and we hammered it multiple times on our broadcast last night. They play in the toughest conference in the state. They play in the Hoosier Crossroads Conference, and that's a tough conference with teams like Noblesville and Fishers, Westfield, Brownsburg. That's just a tough conference. It's always going to be a tough conference, and coaches in that conference have called it the toughest conference in the country for high school basketball. So to play a team like Marion is definitely going to get them ready.
And in most sports, it's the toughest conference in the country.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
I mean, the football just had both teams in the state championship.
Yeah.
Girls golf, I think,
right.
had 3 of the top 4 teams. It's pretty much every conference now, or every sport now. That's the conference in Indiana. Not all of them, but almost all of them.
And them, and then the MIC that had Carmel and Center Grove aren't in it anymore, but Ben Davis, Warren Central, Lawrence North. Yeah. That's probably the only other conference that arguably could compete as the toughest conference in the state.
No doubt.
With that Hoosier Crossroads.
Also, Garin Catholic will be in the shootout at Muncie Central on Saturday. They will face Yorktown at 8 o'clock. Let me just go over that schedule real fast. You have Monroe Central and Westdell at noon. LaPel versus Burris at 2. Delta versus Tipton at 4 should be a really good one. 2 ranked teams. Hamilton Heights versus Muncie Central at 6. And then Yorktown versus Garin Catholic, 2 unbeaten teams at 8 o'clock. So that should be a great day.
Yes.
Delta, like I just said, will also be there. They beat Centerville 45-40. They are now 2-1 on the season. They are, by the way, ranked 13th in Class 3A. They forced Centerville into 21 turnovers. They had a very balanced attack. Senior Cooper Bratton had 11 points, and seniors Bronson Edwards and Jordan Fernie scored 10 points apiece. They go to Yorktown on Friday for a big one in the conference. Of course, that is a big rivalry. Yorktown 3-0, so that should be a really good one. A lot of interest in Delaware County in that one. And then 2-2 Centerville got 18 points on 5 of 6 from 3-point land from freshman Jace Holland Donner, sorry. Western 57, Frankfort 25. Western is 3-1, having won 3 in a row. They led 26 to 4 at the half and 42 to 14 at the end of the third. They host Tipton on Friday and are at 4-0. Rossville on Saturday. 0-3 Frankfort shot 15% from the field. Oof.
Yeah, Frankfurt. I don't know why. I'm not really sure exactly how they dropped off so much from last year to this year.
Yeah, just happens sometimes, and it seems pretty bad for Frankfurt right now. Great
Yes.
program. Eastern Hancock 60, West Dell 55. First loss for West Dell, first win for Eastern Hancock, and it was the first conference game for both teams. For West Dell senior Josiah Love, 28 points of their 55, 5 rebounds, 3 steals. Senior Gabriel Becerra, 13 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. And junior Julian Carpenter, 9 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. West Dell host 1 and 2 Union on Friday, and then host 2 and 1 Monroe Central. They don't host them; they play them at Muncie Central in that shootout. Eastern Hancock's junior Caden Powers had 13 points. Shenandoah is 4-0 for the third time in the last 5 years, actually, and 3-0 in the Mid-Eastern Conference after beating Cowan 84 to 36. Cowan is 0-4 for the second straight year. They were led by 21 points from sophomore Brody Clifford. He was 8 for 12 from the field and 3 for 3 from behind the three-point line, with 7 rebounds and 2 steals. Cowan goes to 0-4 Blue River Valley on Friday. And finally, Anderson Prep 68, Central Christian 28. Anderson Prep was 2-0 for the first time ever, 3-0 for the first time ever, and now 4-0 for the first time ever. And we will hear from Coach Ryan Fathauer on Monday's Week in Review. For the Jets, Lincoln Fathauer scored 22 points, 7 steals, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds. Senior Zamarian Bryant, 21 points and 4 rebounds. And senior Cameron Anderson, 4 points, 10 assists, 4 steals. The Jets probably have their toughest test yet on Wednesday when they go to 2-1 Cambridge City. 0-4 Central Christian was led by 9 points from sophomore Josiah Riggins. They started 0-14 last year. Michelle, big Saturday. Thoughts on the day?
Thoughts on the day? I think it's awful early to make long-term projections, but I think that the teams that we thought would be pretty good in this area heading in to the season, Frankton, Tipton, Lapel,
Right.
Wapahani, Oak Hill,
Kokomo.
Kokomo,
Yeah.
they're living up to expectations, I think. And then teams we weren't real sure about and have turned out to be maybe doing good things and being like Madison-Grant, Blackford, Eastbrook with
Yep.
going from the
Anderson
girls to the
Prep.
boys program. Yeah, and Anderson Prep being a little bit of a surprise. And teams that maybe Ellick might be a little bit of a surprise just because they started 0-3. I wasn't expecting that.
Right.
Elwood, I expected them to get off to a slow start, just because of what they didn't have coming back, and that again they were going to be young, and the experienced players they had coming back. Mullins was probably the one that logged the most minutes last year, and then Etchison, and then no one else, I don't think, logged huge minutes for them. So it was going to be a learning experience. And a team I think I'm really interested to see too how they develop is Tri Central. I think Cam's done a nice job there with the Trojans, and I'm anxious to see how they're standing after next weekend, and hopefully the illnesses that they had going through their team last week, although didn't keep them from getting their first win at Callan on Friday night. Hopefully that has made its course and they'll go into this weekend healthy, because with the back-to-back, it'd be kind of hard to play back-to-back if they're not healthy.
Thanks for reminding me. We hope to hear from Tri-Central head coach Cam Heineman on Monday's Week in Review. We will also have a girls basketball Week in Review and hear from several coaches from the girls as well. That will definitely be out Monday, probably late Monday evening. And then we'll have the boys probably first thing Tuesday morning, and we will have more details, more, a lot of these games that didn't have a lot of stats. We probably have all that by Tuesday morning. So thank you so much, Michelle, and we will talk very soon.
All right. You're very welcome, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Michelle. She is the best. Thanks also to Tipton head coach Cliff Hawkins Frankton, head coach Brent Brobston, Madison-Grant head coach Josh Hendrixson, Alexandria head coach Marty Carroll, and Grant Shouse of the Action Sports Network for joining the Central Indiana Sports Report and making it a better podcast. And thank you for listening. Please go right now and like, subscribe, or follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. And please tell a friend. Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie.